In the cold dark between stars where time moved slow and silence ruled, a broken ship drifted alone. Its metal skin torn, its lights dead, its crew gone. Only one sound remained, a soft, steady beep from deep inside the belly of the ship. In a small, frozen room lay Lily Carter, 17 years old, wrapped in a cryopod. Her skin pale, her breath shallow, her dreams filled with fire and falling towers. The ship had run for months, fleeing the Krellin Purge, a brutal alien force that swept through human space like a storm of teeth and steel. They called themselves the Cleansers, and believed all other life was a flaw in the universe. Humans were the worst flaw in their eyes, too loud, too clever, too stubborn. They resisted too long, they bled too much, they remembered too well. Lily was not supposed to be alive. She was a stowaway hidden by her older brother just before the final attack on Mars orbit. He shoved her into an emergency pod, whispered run, and vanished into smoke and gunfire. The pod latched onto a derelict freighter that autopiloted toward the outer rim. No one expected it to survive, but it did, and now it floated near the neutral zone, a lawless stretch of space where scavengers and outcasts traded secrets and salvage. A shadow passed over the ship, not a ship but a living vessel, sleek and silent, its hull shimmering like oil on water. Inside the bridge of that vessel stood Zara Voss, a Krellin female rare among her kind. For questioning the Purge, she wore the silver armor of a high sentinel, but her eyes held doubt. Her claws had drawn blood, but never without reason. She had tracked the human freighter for days, intrigued by its strange path and the single faint life sign within. Zara ordered her ship to dock. The freighter groaned as clamps locked and air hissed through breached seals. She stepped inside alone, her senses sharp, her breath steady. The corridors were frozen, tombs filled with the ghosts of dead humans. She followed the hum of the cryo unit until she found Lily. For a long moment, Zara stared at the sleeping girl, so small, so fragile, her face streaked with dried tears. Even in sleep, she looked ready to fight. Zara reached out but stopped, her claw hovering over the release switch. Was this mercy or cruelty to wake her in this place with no home, no hope? She pressed the button. Lily gasped awake, her eyes wide, her body trembling. She scrambled back, hitting the cryo wall, her voice raw from disuse. Who are you? She rasped. Zara stood tall, her voice low, calm. I am Zara of the Krellin High Sentinel. You are the last human aboard this vessel. Lily's hands curled into fists, her fear hardening into something sharper. You killed them all, she whispered. Not all, Zara said, but many. Yes. Lily's jaw tightened. Then she said something that made Zara still. All killers are gone. Zara tilted her head. What does that mean? Lily pushed herself up, unsteady but defiant. Not on Earth. The words hung in the cold air, simple but heavy. Zara had heard stories of Earth, the cradle world, the place humans called home, a planet scarred by war yet still breathing, still fighting. The Krellin fleet had never reached it. Their armada turned back by something they would not name. You speak as if Earth still stands, Zara said. It does, Lily said. And it always will. Zara studied her. The girl had no weapons, no armor, no allies yet. She stood like she owned the stars. Zara had seen entire worlds surrender with less dignity than this child showed in a broken ship. Why? Do you believe that? Zara asked. Because we are human. Lily said, because we lose everything and still plant seeds, because we bury our dead and then build schools on their graves, because when your kind came we did not beg, we fought with rocks and rage and radio static until our last breath, and Earth has billions like Zara felt something stir inside her, a memory of her own youth when she asked her commander, why they cleanse? Why not learn? Why not share? The answer had been silence. Then, a lash across her face, she looked at Lily again. Not as prey, but as proof. You are alone, Zara said softly. Lily met her gaze. I am, but I am not lost. Zara made a choice then, one that would brand her a traitor if discovered. She extended her hand, not in threat but offer. Come with. Lily hesitated, then took it. Her fingers small against Zara's scaled palm, Zara led her through the corridors to her living ship, its walls pulsing with soft blue light, the air warm and thick with the scent of alien herbs. This vessel is mine, she said. It answers only to me. I have been tracking the Purge fleet. They move toward the Sol system. They believe Earth is weak. They do not know what waits there. Lily's heart pounded. They think wrong. Yes, Zara said. I will help you prove it. Over the next days, Lily learned the truth. Zara was not the only Krellin who doubted the Purge. A secret network of dissenters existed scattered across the galaxy. They called themselves the Unbound. They believed coexistence was possible. But they were few and hunted. Zara had been gathering evidence of war crimes committed by the High Council, proof that the Purge was not about balance, but greed, Earth's resources, its genetic diversity, its strange, unpredictable spirit, all coveted under the mask of cleansing. But evidence was not enough. They needed a symbol, someone the galaxy would see and remember. You are that symbol, Zara told Lily one night as they drifted near a dying star. Lily laughed. I am just a girl. You are the last human they expected to survive, Zara said. You walked out of their fire and lived. You carry Earth in your bones. That is more than enough. Lily thought of her brother, of her parents, of the millions who fell so she could run. She thought of Earth, green and loud and messy and alive. Okay, she said. Teach me. Zara trained her not to fight like a Krellin, but to think like one, to use silence as a weapon, to turn fear into focus. Lily learned to read alien tech, to pilot the living ship, to speak in code that danced around truth. And then the day came. The Purge fleet gathered at the edge of Sol system, 100 warships, black and hungry. Their cannons charged their commanders, eager to finally erase the last human world. But before they could jump, Zara's ship appeared alone, small, defiant in the void. The fleet commander hailed her. Zara Voss, you are ordered to stand down. You harbor a fugitive. Zara opened a channel, her voice calm across every ship. I harbor truth. Then she broadcast the evidence, the recordings, the orders, the screams of dying worlds, and at the center of it all, Lily standing tall in human clothes, her face clear, her eyes burning. I am Lily Carter, she said. I am from Earth, and if you come for us, we will not die. Quietly, we will not vanish. We will make you remember every name, every life, every drop of blood you took, and we will make you pay. The fleet hesitated for the first time in centuries. Doubt flickered in their ranks. Then from behind the sun, a new signal flared. Not one ship, but thousands, human ships, old and new, patched together with hope and fury. The Resistance had heard the broadcast. Earth had heard. The battle that followed was not won by weapons alone, but by will. The Unbound joined the fight. Krellin against Krellin, brother against brother, and in the center of it all, Lily and Zara flew like fire through the dark. When it was over, the Purge fleet was broken. The High Council fled, and the galaxy watched as a human girl and a Krellin woman stood together on a bridge of shattered warships. Peace would not come easy. Trust would take generations, but for the first time in centuries, the stars felt open later on a quiet moon where wildflowers grew in the cracks of old ruins. Lily sat beside Zara, watching the twin suns set to. You think they will ever understand us? Lily asked. Zara looked at her. Not all of them, but some will. And that is how change begins. Lily smiled, small but sure. Then she whispered. Not on Earth. Zara nodded. And for the first time in her life, she believed it too. Weeks passed since the battle at the edge of Sol system. The stars still held their breath, as if waiting for the next storm. Lily and Zara drifted through the quiet lanes of the neutral zone, their ship cloaked in silence, their names whispered in fear and hope across 100 worlds. They were no longer just fugitives. They were symbols, and symbols made enemies as easily as allies. A dusty outpost called Virel 9, hidden behind asteroid belts and old war debris. They met with the Unbound, a secret group of Krellin rebels who had spent years gathering proof against the High Council. Their leader was a scarred elder named Kale, his voice rough from years of hiding, his eyes sharp with loss. He greeted Lily not with suspicion, but with respect. You carry more weight than empires, he told her. Your words broke their certainty. That is more dangerous than any weapon. Lily did not feel dangerous. She felt tired, her dreams still filled with fire and falling cities. But now she also dreamed of earth-green fields and crowded streets, laughter and languages she had almost forgotten. She missed the smell of rain on concrete, the sound of birds at dawn, things no alien world could give. Her Zara watched her closely. She saw the weight in Lily's shoulders, the way she stared at stars, not with wonder, but with longing one night as they walked the rusted walkways of Varel. 9, Zara asked. What do you miss? Most Lily did not answer right away. Then she said, My brother's laugh. He used to whistle. When he fixed things, like the sound kept the broken parts from giving up. Zara nodded. She had no siblings, but she understood loss. She remembered her first mentor, a female named Mirelle, who taught her to question before obeying. Mirelle was executed for treason when Zara was young. Her last words were, Truth does not bleed. But liars don't know. Zara carried that truth like a blade, and Lily was its edge. But peace was fragile. Rumors spread that the High Council had not fled. They had regrouped deep in the void, building something new, something worse. A weapon not of fire but of silence. A device that could erase memory itself. Not kill bodies but steal history. Make entire worlds forget who they were. The Unbound confirmed it through coded signals. The weapon was called the Hollow Mind, and it was nearly ready. Its first target. Earth, not to burn it but to unmake it, to turn humans into empty shells who would welcome their own erasure. We cannot let that happen. Lily said, her voice quiet but firm. Will not, Zara replied. They planned a mission, not a battle but a theft. They would slip into the heart of Krellin space, infiltrate the Forge Moon where the Hollow Mind was being built, and destroy it from within. It was suicide, but both knew it was the only way. They gathered a small crew from the Unbound 5 rebels, including a tech specialist named Rien, who could crack any lock, and a pilot named Tor, who flew like his ship was part of his bones. Lily trained harder than ever, learning to move without sound, to read enemy patterns, to use Krellin tools that felt strange in her human hands. Zara taught her the old ways, the silent paths, the hidden signs, the language of shadows. Lily was quick. She learned fast. Not because she was smart, but because she had no choice. She carried Earth in her, and Earth did not give up. The night before they left, Kale gave Lily a small stone carved with human letters. It was found in the ruins of Mars' orbit. He said your brother left it behind. They found it near the pod bay. Lily held it tight. It was warm, as if it remembered her. The journey to the Forge Moon took 10 days through dead zones where no signals flew, and patrols watched like hawks. They moved in silence, their ship disguised as a supply hauler, its living skin mimicking Krellin design. They passed checkpoints by speaking in perfect code and never looking back. When they reached the Forge Moon, it hung in space like a black pearl wrapped in chains of light. Towers rose from its surface, pulsing with dark energy. The Hollow Mind sat at its core, guarded by elite sentinels and layers of mind shielding. They landed in a maintenance trench under cover of a solar flare. Ryan disabled the outer sensors. Tor stayed with the ship, ready to run at a moment's notice. Lily, Zara, and 2 rebels moved through tunnels lit by faint red glow. Every step felt like walking on glass. One wrong move, and it would all shatter. Deep inside, they found the chamber. The Hollow Mind was not a machine, but a living orb pulsing with stolen memories. Faces flickered across its surface. Human faces, Krellin faces. Voices whispered in pain and confusion. This is wrong, Zara said. This is not cleansing. This is theft. Lily stepped forward, her hand trembling. Not from fear but from rage. They took their memories. They took their names. She placed the stone from her brother on the control panel, then activated the overload sequence Rin had built into a small device. It would fry the core, but it would take time, and the alarms would sound. They ran her and screamed through the tunnels. Lights flashed. Red sentinels poured in from every side, claws drawn, eyes burning with fury. Zara fought like a storm, her blades flashing. Lily used stun charges and smoke pellets. She had learned to move like shadow ducking, weaving, striking only when needed. One rebel fell, then another. Tor's voice crackled in their ear, move now or never. They reached the ship just as the moon began to shake, the Hollow Mind collapsing in on itself, its stolen voices fading into silence. They jumped to warp just as the Forge Moon exploded behind them. A bloom of dark light that swallowed sound and memory and left only emptiness. Back at Varel 9, they stood in silence. No cheers, no victory songs, just the weight of what they had done. You saved them, Lily, Zara said softly. Lily shook her head. We saved ourselves because if we forget who we are already gone. Days later, a message came not from rebels, but from Earth. A real signal. Clear and strong, it carried images of cities rebuilding, farms, growing children learning. It ended with a single line spoken by a young girl standing in a field of sunflowers. My name is Maya. I am from Earth and I remember. Lily cried, then laughed, then cried again. Zara placed a hand on her shoulder. You did not do this alone, I know, Lily said, but someone had to speak first. Now others would too. Galaxy was changing, not with fire, but with memory. With names spoken out loud with stones carved, by brothers and girls who refused to vanish on a quiet evening as twin moons rose over Varel 9. Lily sat on the ship's edge looking at the stars. Not as a refugee, but as a witness. Zara joined her. What do you see? Lily smiled. I see Earth waiting, and this time she knew she would go back not as a ghost, but as a promise. The war was not over, but the story was just beginning, and Lily Carter would make sure it was told in full with every name, every tear, every act of courage, no matter how small. Because, on Earth and now beyond it, they remembered. And remembering was resistance. The victory over the hollow mind did not bring peace. It brought attention across the galaxy. Whispers turned to shouts. Humans were not gone. They were rising, and at their center stood a girl with fire in her eyes, and a Krellin who dared to stand. Beside her, Lily and Zara knew they could not stay hidden much longer. The High Council was broken but not dead. New leaders rose from the ashes, ones colder, sharper. They called themselves the Silent Hand, and they believed the purge had failed because it was too loud, too messy this time. They would not burn worlds, they would poison minds from within using spies. Fear and liaison. Virel 9. The Unbound grew restless. Some wanted to strike back. Others feared another war would finish what the purge started. Kale urged caution, but Lily saw the truth. Hiding would not save anyone. Not now. We need to go to Earth, she said one morning as dust swirled around the outpost. Zara looked at her. You are not ready. I will never be ready, Lily replied. But Earth is, and they need to know they are not alone. Zara knew she was right. The signal from Earth had been real but weak. Like a voice calling through a storm, they needed to answer in person. They prepared the ship. Rhine upgraded its shields to a mapped path. Through the dead zones, avoiding known patrols, they carried no weapons, only truth. And the stone Lily kept in her pocket. The journey took 12 days longer than expected. A patrol nearly caught them near the Orion Veil, but Tor flew through a collapsing nebula so hot it melted their hull paint. They emerged scorched but alive. When Sol System finally appeared on the view screen, Lily's breath caught. Earth hung in the black like a jewel, blue and green and white clouds swirling over mountains and oceans. It was more beautiful than she remembered. They sent a message not in code but plain human speech. This is Lily Carter. I am coming home. Hours passed, then a reply. Not from military, not from government, but from a network of schools, farms, and neighborhood groups. They had built their own comms after the last attack. They called themselves the Route Welcome Home, Lily, they said, as the ship entered orbit. Hundreds of small craft rose to meet them. Not warships, but fishing boats, repair drones, school shuttles, each one flying a handmade flag. Some stitched, some painted, all bearing one word. Remember, Lily cried again, but this time from joy. They landed in a field outside what was once Chicago. Now a city of gardens and shared walls, buildings. Made from old metal and new wood, children ran between them, laughing women and men. Worked side by side, planting food, fixing machines, teaching history under open skies. A woman named Clara greeted them. She was old, her hair white, her hands rough from work but her eyes bright like stars. She hugged Lily without a word, then turned to Zara and bowed slightly. You kept her safe. Zara nodded. I learned from her. That night the whole city gathered, not for a speech but for a meal. Tables stretched for miles, food from every corner of the planet shared freely. Lily sat between Clara and Zara listening to stories of survival. How they rebuilt after the attacks, how they taught children to fight not with guns but with questions. How they buried the dead and named streets after them so no one would forget. Zara watched in silence. She had been taught that humans were chaotic, weak, selfish. But here was order born from care, not control, strength from community, not conquest. "This is how you resist?" she said quietly. Lily nodded. "This is how we live." But peace on Earth was fragile too. Scouts reported strange signals near the outer colonies. Ships with no flags moving in silence. The silent hand had found them. Worse, some humans began to doubt why bring aliens here, they asked, after all they did to us. Lily heard the fear in their voices and knew it was the enemy's real weapon. Not fire, but division. She stood before the city the next morning. Not on a stage, but on a wooden crate. Her voice clear and calm. "I stood in a broken ship with nothing but a name and a memory, and a Krellin gave me her hand. Not because she owed me, but because she chose to believe we could be better than our worst moments." She pointed to Zara, who stood tall and simple. Clothes, no armor, no weapons, just herself. "She is not our enemy. She is our witness, and if we turn her away, we become what they wanted us to be." Empty, the crowd was quiet. Then a child stepped forward holding a flower and placed it at Zara's feet. Then another and another until Zara stood surrounded by color and kindness. But the threat remained. Days later, a scout ship returned, damaged, its pilot wounded. He gasped out a warning. The silent hand had taken Titan. They were building something there, a new kind of weapon, not to erase memory, but to mimic it. They would send false humans false messages, false hope to break trust from the inside. "We have to stop them," Lily said. "Not we," Zara said. "You stay here, protect this." Lily shook her head. "If they break trust here, it will not matter what we destroy out there. The real war is here in the heart." So they made a new plan, not to attack but to expose. They would go to Titan, not as soldiers but as truth-bearers with cameras, open mics, and the full memory of what the Krellin had done and what some had chosen to undo. Flew them through the rings of Saturn cloaked in shadow. Rin hacked into Titan's comms and broadcast their signal across every human and Krellin channel. When they landed, the silent hand was waiting. But Lily walked out alone, her hands empty. Her face calm. "You are too late," one hiss had no, Lily said. "You are too loud." Then she played the recordings, the confessions, the orders, the screams, and then she played Earth's voices, children singing, elders teaching, neighbors sharing bread. "Which world do you want?" she asked the silent hand warriors who had never seen a sunrise on a living planet. For the first time, some lowered their weapons. Zara stepped forward, not to fight, but to speak. "I was taught to cleanse, but I chose to see, and seeing changed me. You can too." A long silence, then one warrior removed his mask. His face young, his eyes tired. "I did not know." That was all it took. The weapon on Titan was dismantled. Not by force, but by choice. Former enemies worked together to erase its lies and send the truth home. When Lily and Zara returned to Earth, they were not hailed as heroes, but as neighbors. Months passed, seasons turned, the city grew stronger, not by walls, but by bonds. Lily taught children to speak Krellin. Zara learned to plant corn and laugh at human jokes one evening as fireflies blinked in the warm air. Clara asked, "What comes next?" Lily looked at Zara, then at the stars. "We keep remembering," she said, "and we keep reaching because the universe is big but not too big for kindness. And on Earth and beyond it, they would make sure that truth lived longer than fear." Spring came to the rebuilt city outside old Chicago with warm winds and the smell of wet soil. Lily Carter walked the garden paths barefoot like she used to as a child. Her hair longer now, her steps slower, but her eyes still sharp. She carried a basket of seeds given to her by Clara, who said these are from before the fires. They remember how to grow. Zara walked beside her, not in armor, but in soft cloth woven by earth hands. She had learned to tie her hair back like the women here, to drink tea without spilling, to laugh when Lily tripped over a root and fell into a patch of daisies. Peace had settled like dust after a storm. Quiet but real. Yet both knew it was not the end. It was only a breath between storms. Rumors came from the outer colonies again, not of war but of silence. Ships vanished, comms went dark, and no one answered calls. The silent hand was gone, but something else moved in the dark. Something older. Something that had watched the purge and the resistance with cold interest. It called itself the Chorus, not an army, but a network of minds linked across space. They believed all life should sing one song, One thought, one will difference was noise. Chaos was sin, and humans, with their messy hearts and loud dreams, were the worst kind of noise. They did not send warships. They sent whispers, dreams that felt real. Voices that sounded like loved ones calling from the dark. Some colonists began to forget their names, their homes, their reasons to fight. They just walked into the void smiling. Lily heard the reports and felt a chill deeper than space. They are not killing us. She told Zara they are making us stop caring. Zara's claws flexed, not in anger but in fear, because this enemy could not be fought with blades or bombs. It lived in the mind. We need to understand it, Lily said. So we can break its song. They traveled to Mars. Not the dead red rock of old, but a new settlement built in the canyons where water now ran clean and children played in domes filled with air and light there. They met Dr. Elin, a scientist who had studied alien signals for years before the Purge. The chorus is not Krellin, she explained. It is older than your wars, older than my world. It feeds on unity, but not the kind you think. It does not want peace, it wants silence, it wants every voice to stop. So only it remains. So do we fight? That Lily asked. You do not fight it. Elin said. You drown it with what? With noise, with stories, with songs, with every human voice raised in joy or pain or love or rage, as long as it is really understood. Then the chorus feared not weapons but truth, not strength but memory. She returned to Earth and called the root. Not for war, but for a broadcast. A message not to enemies, but to everyone everywhere. For 3 days the city prepared not with guns but with music. Poets wrote new verses. Farmers sang old work songs. Children recorded their dreams. Elders shared stories of survival. Every voice was recorded. Every sound saved. Then on the 4th day they sent it all into space, not as a weapon but as a wave. A flood of human noise, raw and real and full of life. The chorus tried to silence it at first. Its whispers grew louder, its dreams darker, but the wave kept coming. Voices from Earth, Mars, Titan, even from Krellin rebels who added their own songs of doubt and hope. On a quiet moon far from any world, a chorus node flickered, then shattered its perfect silence, broken by a child's laugh. Back on Earth, Lily stood on the same wooden crate as before, but this time she did not speak. She just played the wave for the city to hear. People cried, they danced, they held each other. Not because they were safe, but because they were alive. And that was enough. Zara stood at the edge of the crowd watching, not as an outsider, but as one of them. A woman who had once believed in order above all, now found beauty in chaos in the way. A baby cried, then laughed in the way. 2 friends argued, then shared bread. You changed me. Lily had told her once. No, Zara replied, you reminded me I could choose. Weeks later, a small ship arrived, not from the colonies but from deep space. Its pilot was young, barely more than a boy. His skin marked with strange symbols, his eyes wide with fear. He spoke broken English. Ran, I heard your song, it woke me. He was from a world the chorus had taken years ago, a place where people moved like ghosts, speaking only when told what to say. He had heard Earth's wave in his sleep and remembered his mother's voice. They took him, and not as a refugee, but as family. Lily taught him to plant seeds, Zara taught him to question. And slowly he began to speak, not in whispers, but in full sentences, with anger and joy and questions that had no answers. And that was okay. The chorus did not vanish, it never would, but its power shrank like a shadow in strong light. Because wherever humans gathered, they made noise, they argued, they loved, they remembered. And that was a song. No silence could kill. One evening, as the twin sons of Somerset, Lily and Zara sat on the roof of a school built from old ship parts. Children's drawings taped to the walls. Do you think we won? Lily asked. Zara looked at the stars not as threats, but as possibilities. No, she said, but we are still singing. Lily smiled and hummed a tune her brother used to whistle. Below them, the city buzzed with life voices rising like sparks into the night, and far out in the dark. Another ship heard the song and turned toward the sound, because on Earth and now beyond it, they did not just survive, they lived loudly, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. Summer burned bright over the city that once was Chicago, now a place of green roofs and shared kitchens where children ran barefoot and elders taught history under oak trees. Lily Carter walked the main path, not as a leader, but as a neighbor. She carried a jar of honey from Mrs. Ellis, who kept bees in the old subway tunnels, and a book of poems written by students at the Sunflower School. Zara walked beside her, her steps lighter now, her voice softer. She had stopped counting threats and started counting stars with the children at night. She even let them braid her hair with ribbons made from old signal wire. Peace had grown roots, but roots could be cut if no one watched. A message came from Titan, not a distress call, but a question written in simple code by a young Krellin named Navi, who had once served the Silent Hand but now taught Earth children how to read alien constellations. The message said, "They are listening again, not the chorus, not the purge, but something new, something that did not fight or whisper it." Watched Lily showed the message to Clara, who sat weaving baskets from river reeds, her hands never still even when her mind raced. Watchers are worse than fighters, Clara said. Fighters you can see, watchers wait until you forget to look. That night Lily called a meeting, not in a hall but around a fire in the central square. People came with blankets and soup and questions in their eyes. We thought the war was over. Someone said, "Wars end," Lily replied, "but stories do." She told them about the Watchers, beings who moved between stars not to conquer but to collect. They gathered cultures like stones, studied them, then sealed them away in silence. Museums of living worlds where no one spoke, no one changed. No one. They call it preservation, she said, but it is another kind of death. A child raised her hand. What do they want from us? Our noise, Lily said. Our mess. Our mistakes. Our songs that go off key. Our arguments that end in hugs. Our seeds that fail, and the ones that grow anyway. Zara stood then, not to speak, but to show. She held up a cracked clay bowl made by a student who had never shaped clay before. It was lopsided. The glaze ran uneven, but it held water, and that was enough. This is what they will never understand, she said. Beauty is not perfect, it is alive. The city decided then not to hide, but to be louder than ever. They held festivals every week, not just for joy, but as acts of defiance. Music spilled into the streets, stories were told in 3 languages. Children painted murals on every wall. Even the old water tower now showed a giant sunflower with 1,000 faces in its petals. Meanwhile, Lily and Zara prepared for a different kind of mission. Not to fight, but to invite. They sent a signal, not hidden, not coded, but open, bright, and clear. It said, "Come see for yourself." Weeks passed. Then a ship appeared, not warlike, not cloaked, just a smooth silver shape that hovered at the edge of orbit. No weapons, no demands, just waiting. Lily and Zara flew up alone. No guards, no shields, just 2 women in a small shuttle. They docked and stepped inside. The Watcher ship was clean, silent, every surface smooth, every light soft. It felt like a library with no books. A figure emerged, tall, slender, its face smooth with no mouth, no eyes, just a soft glow where features should be. It did not speak, but thoughts formed in their minds. Not words, but feelings. Images. It showed them worlds frozen in time. Cities where no one aged. No one argued. No one dreamed a planet of perfect gardens with no weeds, no decay. No change. This is peace, the thought came. No, Lily sent back, this is sleep. She showed the Watcher Earth, not the clean version, but the real one. A baby crying at dawn. A couple arguing over crops. Then laughing, a boy falling off his bike and getting back up, a woman singing off key while she cooked dinner. This is life, she said, messy, loud, sometimes, painful, but always moving. The Watcher was still for a long time. Then it showed something new, a memory of its own long ago. It had been like them once, full of questions and noise, but fear made it choose silence. We thought stillness was safety. It shared. Zara stepped forward. You were wrong. The Watcher did not argue. It simply bowed its head, then offered a gift. Not a weapon, not a tool, but a seed small and dark from a world long gone plant. It had said, if it grows, you were right. They took the seed back to Earth and planted it in the center of the square. Everyone watched, but nothing happened. For days, then a week. Then Tusum said it was dead, but Lily watered it every morning. Zara sang to it in the old Krellin way. Not for magic, but for Charon. The 21st day, A green shoot pushed through the soil, thin and trembling but alive. The city cheered not loudly but softly, like a breath held too long. Finally released, the Watcher ship left that night not in anger but in wonder. Back on the ground, Lily sat beside Zara under the new chute now wrapped in a tiny trellis made by children. You think it will grow? Tall, Lily asked. Zara touched a leaf gently. It already has. Months passed, the shoot became a vine, then a tree with silver leaves that chimed in the wind. They called it the Remembering Tree, and hung notes on its branches. Hopes, fears, names of the lost recipes for bread, songs for rain. The Watchers never returned, but sometimes at night the leaves would glow faintly as if answering a distant call. Life went on. The city grew not bigger but deeper. New babies were born, old stories were rewritten. Children learned to speak Krellin and English and the old tongue of Mars. Farmers traded seeds with colonies on Titan and beyond. Lily no longer dreamed of fire. She dreamed of gardens of hands planting together, of voices rising not in fear but in song. Zara no longer counted enemies. She counted sunrises, counted the number of times Lily laughed, counted the weight of a child sleeping on her shoulder during story hour. One evening, as autumn painted the sky, gold and red, Clara joined them on the porch of the school now covered in the silver vine. "You did not save the world," she said softly. Lily looked at her. "No," she said. "We reminded it how to save itself, and that was enough, fair out in the dark." The chorus still whispered the old empires, still schemed the void, still held its secrets, but on Earth and on every world touched by its noise, life grew louder. Because they chose not to be perfect. They chose to be real. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.